Okay, I thought I'd talk on the topic of evolution and creation. Um, so you have a perspective where I'm coming from. Um, when I was a new Christian, I was a very fervent Christian, and I guess I tried to witness to everyone I could almost. I used to work on building sites and talk to all the builders and plumbers and electricians, whoever there was, and I was just really unashamedly a Christian. I had had spiritual experiences, so I was um, completely, my life revolved around Christianity and getting people to understand God was real and I wanted to get them saved. I wanted them going to heaven. So that was what it was about. Complete uh, faith and knowing it was true helps a lot. But I came across people who said, I believe in evolution, not the Bible. And that was started to become quite a few people were like that, and they would even say, "I believe in science and evolution, not the Bible." So they equated science, believing in science, to being the same as believing in evolution. And I thought, oh, that's strange. And I didn't really know evolution, to be honest, apart from high school, what was taught at high school, really what it was. I knew you know, generally, but I hadn't really studied it in depth. Um, so I thought, I wonder. I knew God was real. That was, and I knew the Bible was true. But I wondered, oh, maybe God used evolution, or you know, or something else. And there were many theories about that. Maybe about the days of Genesis being long periods or unspecified time periods, etc. Um, So I thought, oh, okay, it could be. So I decided to study evolution. Um, I spent, when I study something, I get right into it, passionate about it. I spend my waking moments studying it, get resources, and I really go for it. Well, that's what I used to be like anyway. And so for about, it would have been a minimum of 3 years, I um, just studied about evolution and wanted to know it and about creation and wanted to know what is evidences because I found there was a group of people called creationists and later on there became a group of people called intelligent design, people who believed in intelligence and design, and so I wanted to see which one stacked up, which one was the real one. I knew God was real, I believed the Bible, um, but I wasn't sure about evolution actually. I just had a gut feeling it couldn't be right. When I read the Bible, I just thought, how can it be right? So, yeah, after my study, as I got into it, more and more I got into it, I did realize that evolution seems to, at a very high level, appeal to the intelligence and to your intellect. That it seems a plausible. This isn't at high school understanding level. This is at a higher level of study. Um, that it actually seems to be plausible. Okay, and so that's why there are so many scientists who follow it because they just think people who understand it at high school level don't really understand it. Therefore, if you uh, argue against it at high school level, you they just think you're stupid because it's actually at university at the higher levels where it actually they believe makes more sense and is fact. So most creationists and all that they think are just arguing at the lower level and therefore are morons. Um, yeah, so I started studying and I got quite a good grasp of evolution. I think I got a better grasp than most um, evolutionists in a lot of ways because I really wanted to find out what it meant. Um, along the way, learning about creation as well, and learning the evidences for both. And I found there's some things that are definitely necessary for evolution to be true. That is, evolution most definitely requires, that the world is old. Um, it relies on it, okay? And the theory of evolution um, can't hold up at all if the world isn't old. So when creationists attack the age of the earth, or believe the Bible that the earth is around 6,000 years old, um, evolutionists basically very adamantly oppose that idea. Um, where in fact it seems like there is a lot more evidence in favour of a young earth than an old earth. I mean, people say, "Oh, but look how old that is, look how old it looks." Well, we don't know how old things look. That's the point. We have no measuring stick when we look at a rock, or if we look at a castle. We don't know how old it is. It looks old, yeah, but we don't know what old looks like. So when someone looks at says, "Oh, that's millions of years old," we look at it and go, "Oh, okay, that's what millions of years old looks like." And then we come along and we brainwash basically into believing that's what that looks like. So that when we see a building and it looks old, uh, we can go, "Oh yeah, that must be hundreds of years or thousands of years old. Can't be millions." So we make these time categories in our mind, um, and when we look at things, we try and perceive it from that. So what's happened is, I believe, um, we've been taught to look at things and put an age on it just with our own understanding. But really, in reality, we can't say what a million years looks like when we look at something. We can't look at something and say what 100,000 years looks like, because we've never seen, we don't know what that is. And so if someone says that's 1,000 years old and someone says that's 100 years old, um, you just will categorize it, and then later on you'll bring back that memory to try and work it out. So people saying, "Oh, that is old," it's not. That doesn't look like 1,000 years old. That looks like millions of years old. That's a silly argument, really. So that's not scientific. Let's face it. That's just, we have already have a predisposition based on what has been taught in society when we look at things. So we're predisposed when we look at things because people are telling us this is how old it is. So that's why we think things are old. We've got no real reason not to believe the world is young. Okay. Now I want to attack that whole theory. See, evolution, I know, is like a house of cards. If you take out its age, that the world is not old, the whole house of cards, which is very flimsy, will just collapse. The whole theory will collapse. And um, I want you to see how easy it is for me to take out the house of cards. This is why, if it was really true, it shouldn't be so easy to disprove. I think it should be very difficult to disprove, because when something's true, the evidence should always be stacking up, and there should be more and more evidence for it, um, and it should always, under scrutiny, under extreme scrutiny and more scrutiny and more scrutiny, it should stack up. It should make more and more sense, and the evidence should be more and more compelling. But after studying evolution and looking at evidences and looking at the fors and against, um, the more I studied, and remember, I was wanting an answer. Okay? I wanted to know. I wanted honestly to know, because I was witnessing to people in it. To be honest, I didn't want evolution to be the stumbling block. So I wanted to find out, is it true or is it not true, so I could actually talk with people when they brought that up. Um, the more I studied, the more evidence I looked at, every piece of the theory, every piece of the theory, every thought of the theory, every concept of the theory, I was trying to understand and look at evidence about it. Every time under scrutiny, it fell apart. Every single time I looked at it in depth, it came up wanting, it came up short. There was always problems with it on every area of it. And I just thought, well, this just seems nuts. Are these scientists actually blind who believe this? Are these scientists who are professional scientists who've studied? Yeah, I've done university study as well, so I'm not. So I've got qualifications. Um, but I wondered, these guys have maybe they've just studied and not questioned any of their study, what they've learned. Maybe that's the case, because I couldn't understand how they could believe it when every time I analysed it and looked at it, it failed basically, and there was one. I got to one point where I thought there doesn't seem to be one solid piece of evidence for it. Like I honestly can't think of one factual thing, because a lot of evolutionists and scientists say evolution is fact, but I can't find one thing in any of the areas from geology, astrophysics, um, uh, uh, paleontology, anthropology, you name it, the disciplines that support it, biology. I can't find one evidence that seems to be a fact about it. Like there doesn't seem to be one, not even one piece of evidence. Every single evidence that is proposed by evolution, under scrutiny, it seems to crumble, seems to not really be true. And so it's a constant battle, it seems, with evolution and creation scientists, where evolutionists will put forward this evidence, here is the proof of evolution, and they'll publish it in journals, um, and then the creationists will analyze that information they've put forward, and it will come up short. Basically, they'll say, no, that's not the case, this is why. It will then be disproven. It will take years for the cycle before the evolutionists will actually come to the same conclusion, and finally it will be thrown out. But it's like we believe it, so here's the thing we're putting forward, it's disproved, thrown out, and it's just a cycle. None of the evidence ever holds. So why on earth, as a scientist, if why haven't I just can't understand why they keep putting forward things, seeing them fail, and not think, well, maybe it's because the theory isn't correct. Like, really, like deep down, honestly, how can our theory be correct if it's so easily destroyed every time we try and prove it? Now, when creationists bring forward an argument, their arguments are, it's the same thing. They put forward an argument, the evolutionists then try to attack it to destroy their argument, but there are a lot of things that they've put forward which the evolutionists have not been able to disprove. So it's actually, instead of their things they're putting forward being able to be disproved and destroyed, and then the creationists putting forward something else, the creationists have put over the years put things forward, and the evolutionists have been unable, in many cases, to disprove it. Now that, and the reason of the actual reason, I believe, is because they can't disprove it if it's actually true. If you put forward something and then it's analysed and attacked and they can't find any flaws with it, maybe because it was correct. Where in the other case, evolution's never managed to put forward anything, not one thing, that hasn't fallen apart. So when I looked at all the different evidences and all the multi-disciplines, not one fact of evolution has ever stood the test of time. So you could attack basically any area or analyze any area of evolution and it falls apart. Yeah, well, that's my intro to it. I'm going to do another one on this and carry on. 15 minutes, I think, is long enough for one video. I'll catch you on the next episode.